Hello everyone, welcome to McBoss Capital channel. My name is Michael Chu. This is US market recap video for the week ending February 6, 2026. This is the Nasdaq Composite Index chart. You can see we actually have a first down week for February here. We have kind of cracked under below the red line here, which is the 10-week moving average. So yeah, lots of selling lately, and the volume is really high. We have quite a bit of distribution days. I believe like 7 for Nasdaq. Just go check here. Yeah, we have 7 for Nasdaq and 4 for S&P. So a lot of high volume selling lately. Not a good thing. You can see the volume here rising on those days there on the sell side. On the daily chart here, we see that Nasdaq went below the red line here, which is the 50 days moving average on Tuesday. And then we follow through on the downside on Wednesday, and Thursday continues before we rebound sharply on Friday. Now the problem here is we're still under the 10-day moving average, so what that means is it's still technically in a downtrend. And we can see a nice upper channel line here. So if we do pass back, now we have two problems, right? We need to come back above this short-term moving average, and then you have the red, 50 days moving average right there. So we will have to also cross back above that to be, kind of show that it can actually live above the red line once again. And generally the rally, usually we do live above the red line like here, but here we've been testing this red line many times, unfortunately, and right now it does not look good despite a bounce on Friday. It's pretty normal to have a strong technical bounce after a few days of severe selling. The same thing happened with gold and silver. We'll talk more about that later. So we'll come back to tech in the next last part of the segment, where we'll go over the big cap tech stocks, and yeah, they're still under severe selling pressure. Again, lots of them did bounce back somewhat on Friday, so we'll take a look at that. Here's S&P. S&P also come under selling pressure the last few sessions. This chart looks a lot better because it's now above the 10-day once again. So Friday it was able to come back near the 10-day. Now this one, have tried to come up several times, but it just couldn't. And this last test here is a pretty good test. So once again, we want to see if this can climb back and break to new high. If that happens, that'll be more bullish in that sense. So for the weekly chart on S&P, we did bounce back. Even though it closed just slightly red, down 0.1%. For Dow Jones, you can see it doesn't appear to be as much selling on Dow Industrial. Like, look at that. It actually make new high by Friday closing, so that is very impressive. It hit the 50,000 mark. I think that's headline. So there's definitely stocks that can be bought, during this last week. And again, we'll talk more about industrial stocks in the next video that will come after this, where I go over the growth stocks list. So make sure you follow that. On the daily chart here, again, we had a little bit wobbly here. Even Wednesday was actually up day for industrials. Thursday was down, but again, we stay close to the 10-21 day moving average, and then we were above the red line the whole time here. Which is the 50-day. And then Friday, there's no hesitation. It breaks out to new high, hit the 50,000 mark, and close above that 50,115. So very impressive. Again, looks like industrial stocks are doing pretty good here. Looking at the weekly Russell 2000 index here, here's the bar for the week. It went down all the way to the red line. And we found support there last time as well. We bounced the week after. And this one actually looked even better because we actually touches it and reverse all the way to the top. And you can see we are not far from a new closing high once again. So we could easily do that next week. Let's go to the daily chart. So we have this support right here recently, and then we bounce, and then we pull back. And I think this pullback looks somewhat orderly. For Russell 2000, that looks pretty not too bad. I mean, And then we have a huge bounce on Friday. And that's that, come back above the short-term 10-day, 21-day, right? And we found support at the 50-day here. So it can come back above it, the short-term moving average, all on Friday. And again, we're not that far from a new closing high here. Actually, there's a closing high right there. So I mean, we could go back to the highs again. So looking at the equal weight Nasdaq 100, I mean, we are still way below the 10-day. So most tech stocks are still, under a lot of selling lately, hasn't come back mostly. And then we look at equal weight S&P. This one actually make new high on Friday, so that actually outperformed the S&P 500 right now. So that tells us there's more equal, more the equal weights are more, have more breadth, right? So that means that yeah, if you're not, looking at the broad market, we can see there's actually stocks, doing better actually. Next, we're going to look at the advanced decline line here for NYSE down here. You can see we actually hit new high on Wednesday and Friday once again, compared to S&P. So this is actually the equal weight are doing pretty well. So we're getting general market breadth here that is better than the weighted index. Nasdaq, compared to the advanced decline line here, much weaker. So yeah, it doesn't look very good at all. So it hasn't even come close to the recent high here. So yeah, definitely breadth in Nasdaq is much more weaker. Looking at innovator IBD 50, we had a huge drawdown as well, coming back all the way below the 50-day line and all the way to the 200-day, which is the black line here, before it bounced. So that's good because not only did it bounce, it actually closed higher than last week's close. So that kind of tells us that, the strength in the bounce is pretty strong, because of that bounce back and how it closes this week. So, from that weekly chart, it looks pretty good. On the daily chart, we have come back to the short-term moving averages here. So that's the 10-21 day here. But we're still below this kind of channel line here, where the 10-21 day is. So I mean, if we can cross back above it decisively, that'll be good. Then that will, kind of signify a little bit of support, and that maybe it could rally again. But again, until that comes across, I'm not sure how much trust I have in this. Just a little bounce here on Friday. So we'll see what happens there, because like I said, we're seeing lots of selling pressure. You can see the high volume selling pressure here, meaning people are getting out, right? Perhaps mostly institutions are getting out, and that could be bad for the stocks here. So this is the top IBD 50 stocks here that is being represented. Of course, we know a lot of gold mining stocks are, silver and stuff are on that list. So I'm not sure if they have dropped out of that list yet, but if they're still in the list, that could be a problem. The 10-year U has kind of come back to the 4.2% level. So kind of, I think that level is kind of been the more, we went from being resistance to now above it, but we have come back and tested it, right? So I mean, I think that's a kind of good level to be at least for now. Here's the US dollar bouncing back. It is kind of in a downtrend though, right? You can see here, pretty clear downtrend. And each time it bounces, it just kind of stall around that channel line there. So we'll see what happens, as we are now, again, kind of getting rejected at that. The oil price surprisingly has been holding up pretty good here. We have that one big down day. Yeah, that was Monday. That was a big down day, but the volume wasn't there. That's very interesting. And then we kind of holding and holding, like, you can see the lows here. It just doesn't want to go down. So that is interesting. And just to show where the energy group is, XLE here, it's been doing really well. So, I don't have many energy stocks on my growth stock list because most of them have really not a very consistent earnings, but they're bouncing a lot of them. So it's been pretty big sell off on Monday for gold, right? After last week's sell off, it continued this week, and then it bounced back. But look how it just can't cross above the short-term moving average here. So On Friday, it bounced a little bit above it. So, it's not very decisive, right? Like that's what I usually look for. When it crosses a moving average, I like to see strong, decisive action. So to me, this is a little bit weak, and we have come across that before. Now, the only good thing is on Friday, we did close at the top of the range here. So, but again, very tight range. It doesn't take much to knock it down again, is what I'm trying to say. And then silver didn't even come back to the 10-day moving average, right? So we are still down here versus here. So much weaker action here. Copper, very similar action, bouncing back to 10-day. Again, we have kind of lost the support level at near the short-term moving average. Now we're living below it. We'll see what happens next. Coal here also not doing any better. Again, we're just at the 10-day. So a lot of these are near the 10-day. All these precious metals and coal here. Here's uranium also living below the short-term moving average. And then the big story of the week, Bitcoin dropped, I think, below near 60,000 US dollar. So it's a big drop, I mean, Friday it bounced back 10%. It's normal again for it to bounce back. Look at this volume being so off. That's just crazy. Did it capitulate? We'll see. Again, we watch in a downtrend just like in an uptrend. We look for the short-term moving average, see how it react when it comes near it. If it can bounce back above it decisively, then that might be a good try to test it out. If it can rally from there. But if not, I wouldn't touch it until that happens. So looking at the week, IBD signal, last week we would start dropping from 100% allocation to 60, 80%. And then by Thursday this week, because of the big selling Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we dropped down to 40, 60%. And then because of a bounce on Friday, the IBD changed allocation once again back to 60, 80%. I mean, right now Dow is hitting new highs, so that's the good sign, right? So it's kind of a mixed signal, right? We do have lots of stocks in accumulation, but we also have lots of stocks in distribution. 729 versus 340 on Friday. Industry groups, so volume is really high. That's why we're seeing big numbers. And because of earnings season as well, stocks are moving with much higher volume. On the industry group side, we're seeing again huge volume, and that's why these numbers show up. And we have 138 industry group on Friday with accumulation versus 56 under distribution. So overall, we are actually seeing more positive momentum than negative, right? From the group perspective. Same thing on the individual perspective, except for Thursday here. Even Thursday, it was pretty close, right? On the sector side, we're seeing constant net distribution on technology, but looking at, and then health on Tuesday to Thursday, but on other groups, right, other sectors, retail, industrial, commodities, energy here, this is not broken down by commodities or energy, it's kind of a group of them. So mostly energy, and because of what's happening to gold and silver, and then financial here are all under accumulation, and that's the highest numbers we have seen in a while here. So that's where the money is flowing to, right? So yeah, and then in my next video I'll go through the growth stocks side as well, to talk about where things are even more broken down. So for the last segment of this video, I usually go through the big cap tech companies here. So let's start with Next Semiconductor. Looking at the weekly chart here, SMH, again, we dropped all the way down to the red line, and we have found support in the red line many times before. So this one came back all the way up to the top, near the top. So that's actually very good. I really like the chart, how it looks right now, because we test the red line, and then it bounced back all the way to near the top. So again, it doesn't take much for it to have a new closing high. So this is a very resilient market still, like in general, right? Like there's obviously weakness in some areas like software and so forth, which we'll touch in a second here. So here's the bounce above the short-term moving average. Now, 1-day bounce may not be enough, right? Sometimes we get that 1-day bounce, and even this look quite decisively at the top of the range, above the short-term moving average, even this. But if you draw an upper channel line, it's still kind of in a somewhat of a downtrend. So again, but like I said, Friday bounced really strong, 5.4%. So I mean, the bigger stock in this group is obviously Nvidia. And here we have a huge bounce, 7.8% by the close. And guess where we're standing? We're standing at the red line. This is the 50-day moving average. It's been a struggle. It goes up above it, comes down below it, goes back above it, comes down. And even with my own trades, you can see it hasn't gone anywhere. So it just goes back and forth, back and forth. Now, maybe one of this time it will work. This is a long base now. It's a pretty long base. Maybe one of this time it will work. But again, earnings coming up February 25th, so in 18 days, so anything can happen. We'll see what happens then. Most likely it's just going to wait till earnings before anything really big will happen. So Taiwan Semiconductor already reported it's trading in a very tight range right now. You can see Friday it came all the way to near the previous high at near 350 level, which is a really good sign. And we also have higher volume on Friday as well. So that support is good, and we'll see if it breaks out. AMD is still in a very weak trend here. I mean, we have a bounce on Friday, but not even close to where 10-day is. This is Broadcom AVGO symbol. Still kind of under this, correction here. It's getting closer to coming above all these trend lines here. Here's the red line still coming down. So to be safe, we will have to break above that decisively, which can happen. We'll see. Okay, here's the software. I mean, this daily chart looks pretty bad. Let me go to weekly chart first. Now look at the weekly chart. We broke here 3 weeks ago, and it hasn't stopped bleeding. I mean, it just got bigger, this drop here. And look at this volume. It's just humongous. Have we bottomed? I have no idea, right? We're coming close to the previous low here. We could test that low to that is a long level. Look at that. It goes back all the way to 2023. So if we do break above that low, that will shake a lot of people out, I think. And that could be the bottom. So we'll see. We'll see. It is a very bad week for software group. And I want to say on Friday, there's a lot of groups that bounce, and including we talk about like the chip area. But look at software. It bounced 3.5%. But I mean, the drop it has come recently is so big. And look at where the green line is. Of course, we are oversold right now, but I'm just surprised the bounce is not bigger, right? I mean, I don't know. So I don't like this at all. We can talk about the fundamentals, but there's, is AI, how do you say, is AI really taking over some of those market share from those traditional software companies, especially software in the service and stuff like that, including Microsoft. Look at Microsoft. It bounced 1.9, not even 2% on Friday after such a severe drop. Again, we are very far below the 10-day, and yet it didn't bounce much. Of course, I mean, anything can change all of a sudden, but I'm just looking at this moment right now. The chart does not look good, right? So this is Microsoft. Let's look at the weekly chart here. Because when we're looking at such severe decline, we can ask, where is the support, right? Where is the support level? And we look back here. The most obvious support level is the last big low here, which is back in early 2025 here. I mean, that's still a far way down here, but I mean that's the only level I've seen that can, so we'll see what happens. Look at Palantir here. Yeah, also dropping hard. We have the previous base high here that could be tested soon, right? So again, we're looking for where is the next support level it could test if it does come down further. Again, look at Friday. I mean, 4.5%. It didn't even recover the days before it dropped. The day before it dropped 6.8%, So again, the bounce is weaker than the drop, right? Okay, let's keep going here. So Google also reported. This is one of the stronger charts recently for the mega caps, but even this one has broken. Now it's not too bad yet. We still, it broke the short-term moving average. Then we came down to the red line, and we can see the red line has been very strong support level. It usually doesn't even come close to it. Now this time we did touch it, and look at where it closed on Friday. When everything was up, well, a lot of things were up on Friday, but look at where this closed. It's actually down. So has the momentum changed now? And where's the 10-day slope? It's coming down now. So I don't like where this is, what's happening here based on Friday's action. And here we have Amazon getting knocked on Friday after the earnings report. It actually dropped even before that. I don't remember if there was news related. Down 5.5%. It did recover a lot. It went down to 200 level and then bouncing. But look at this gap. We have a big gap from the gap down there. Next we have Meta. Meta had a good report and it now has been coming down. It looks orderly, right? There's no big gap down or anything like that. But the Friday's action again very weak. Why is it not performing on Friday? And this is true for all the mega caps, right? Like most of them just not reacting well on Friday despite a big bounce in the general market. So that's not a good sign. Apple, surprisingly, is the one that actually moving up in an uptrend. And this uptrend is quite strong. Look at that slope. Looks pretty good, right? I say it looks pretty good. So this is definitely an outlier, in that mega cap group here. Tesla also bouncing on Friday after coming down pretty far now. It's near the 200-day. It didn't touch it yet. That's a good sign. But we're still below the 10-day moving average and 21-day. So we'll see how that goes. And here's Netflix. Still haven't found a bottom. Continue to find resistance at the upper channel line here. So in summary, I would say the big cap definitely not doing so well especially on the tech side, on the mega cap side. Again, lots of software group, got hammered. Software stocks in general. And we saw the accumulation and distribution. A lot of other groups, actually, other sectors are doing better compared to the tech group. And then we have the gold and silver starting to give up as well, right? The precious metal side, while the energy is rising up. So we're going to talk more about the growth stock, the specific ones on my list in the next video. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys have a good week and good weekend. Thank you.